Hello. As you can see, the game I'm going to be talking about today is Dinosaur World. I think this is pretty new, well, 2021 game anyway. It came out in the last year. I got it for Christmas just, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. So I finally managed to get it out and play it solo as 2 players. I normally, when I'm playing solo, I play solo as 3 players, but this game takes up a lot of space, which you'll see when I do setup, so I was only able to play solo as 2 players. But anyway, let me show you how to set up, how to play. We'll go through a few example turns, and then I'll give you some initial thoughts on it. Alright, first thing you do in setup is set your 3 central island boards. These are 3 separate boards. Put them in the middle of your table or play area. You'll have your board for your special buildings. You'll have your board for your attractions and your board that has your gather DNA and dinosaur paddocks on it. Alright, next you'll take your 16 attraction tiles and place them in 4 stacks of 4, each one with the matching. So you have, like, I guess that's kind of like merchandise. We'll go the 4 tiles with that. We'll go here, you just put them face up. Here, the merchandise shops. Alright, hold on. And then your 4 restaurants will go here. The 4 roller coaster tiles will go here. And finally, the 4 security tiles will go on the matching space here. Then you'll get your stack of 30 special building tiles. They all have this kind of ship at the docks background. You'll separate them by the letter. You've got A, B, and C, so you'll put all your A's in one stack, all your B's in another stack, and all your C's in another stack. Then you'll shuffle each of those stacks individually. After each stack has been shuffled, then you'll stack them on top of each other with the B's going on top of the C's and the A's going on top of the B's, and finally that whole stack will go up in this slot at the top of the board. That's on your special building board, and then you'll deal the top 4 tiles out face up to the spaces on the board. Oops. Then you'll take your 17 dinosaur paddock tiles. They have this icon on the back. You'll shuffle those up, put them face down in this slot of this board, and then deal 3 face up. Then you'll put a lot of components in a general supply somewhere. I kind of got some in here. So you'll have your workers of different colors. You'll have your money in different denominations. You'll have your death tokens in 1, 5, and 10 denominations. You'll have your 3 types of dinosaur meeples. Put those in a common general supply area. You'll have these boredom tokens that come in numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are pretty tiny, so anyway, put those in general supply. You put your excess security threat and VP tokens somewhere up in a general supply, as well as your 3 danger dice. Just put those somewhere in a general supply. You'll shuffle these worker database cards and place them in a face-down stack somewhere. You'll put your public notice board somewhere near your other 3 boards and place the round marker on the round 1 space. You take all your DNA dice and put them in the supplied bag and just set that aside somewhere. You'll take your objective cards and separate them into 3 stacks, A, B, and C, Shuffle each of those stacks individually and then reveal the top card from each stack. The rest of the objective cards can go back in the box. They won't be used this game. Alright, each player will then take a lab board. These are all the same. As far as I could tell, they didn't have any color associated with them, so each player will take a lab board. Each player will take one of these park boards and place it near their lab board. Each player will take one welcome center tile. Players will then choose what color they want to be, and they'll take the associated pieces of that color, which will be a Jeepler. 5 Jeepler bonus tokens that match the color. 5 route tokens, which are these little arrows of the matching color. 3 objective markers of your matching color. And 12 resource markers of the matching color. Alright, then each player will place one resource marker on the 2 space of each basic DNA, and they're kind of you can see they're a darker color, so you know that's where to put your starting resource marker. The basic DNA are these 3 on the left, and the advanced DNA are the 3 on the right. And you put a resource marker in the 1 spot of each advanced DNA. And again, they're colored a little darker, so you know that's your starting. You'll put a marker on 0 of the security track, that's this one, and a marker on 0 of the threat track, which is this one, security and threat. You'll put one resource marker at the bottom of your Jeepler track, which is this purple one. Back on the public notice board, you'll put one of your markers on the 0 level of the excitement track, and one on the 0 of the victory points track. And then it says the first player will be the player who most recently trained a raptor to respond to hand signals, and if nobody's done that, you just choose a way to come up with who's going to be first player. So as usual, I'll make my blue player first player. So you put your remaining resource marker on the turn order track, so if he's going to be first, and then my second player, since I'm only playing with 2 players, will be second. You take your 3 objective markers and put them up near the objective cards. Each player will take their welcome center and put it in the middle slot of their park board. You place your Jeepler on your welcome center, up or down, however you want to put it. Take 2 of your arrows and put them in your not your arrows, your route markers. And you take your remaining route tokens and put one on the 3, 4, and 5 spot of your Jeepler track. I guess it doesn't matter which way they're pointing. Then you choose one of your Jeepler bonus tokens and slot it next to the Jeepler track and gain that bonus immediately. So you can choose this one, lets you get 2 basic DNA, this one lets you get 1 advanced DNA, this one lets you get a meeple of any color, this one lets you increase your security by 1, and this one gives you 2 coins or 2 money. So I'll just say, you know, this player, he picks this one, puts it in the slot, so he immediately gets to choose 2 basic DNA, which is any of these 3. So you could get 2 different ones, or 1 twice, or so. We'll just say he's gonna, he'll get a yellow and a red. And finally, each player will get their starting money. The first player gets 8 coins. The second player will get 9, and if you had a third player, they would get 10, and a fourth player would get 11. And then you reveal tiles from the special buildings equal to the number of players plus 1. So in a 2-player game, that would be 3. And you do the same thing with the dinosaur paddock tiles. Then starting with the first player, he chooses one tile from either the special buildings or the dinosaur paddock. So we'll just say this guy chooses the casino. Then in turn order, the next player chooses one from one of the 2 sides. So we'll just say he chooses the T-Rex paddock. Then going in reversed order from whoever picked last. So in a 2-player game, that would be the person that went last would be the red player. So he has to choose one from the opposite set of tiles than he chose the first time. So since he chose a dinosaur paddock the first time, he chooses one of the special building tiles. And then my first player, since he chose a special building tile the first time, he's got to choose a dinosaur paddock the second time. The tiles that were not chosen just go into a discard pile near the area where their tiles originate. Then the players place the tiles they chose in their park. Each tile has to be adjacent and touch one of the 4 available edges of their welcome center. So, he could place one here, and, he could place one here. Now, this tile, if it has a victory point with like a lightning bolt at the top of that, you gain that victory point immediately. So he gains 1 victory point. Alright, then this player has to place his, so maybe he puts one there, and he'll put that one there. Now, neither one of these has a victory point. So those tiles have been placed. Now, instead of that initial part tile draft that we just talked about, there is in the rules a beginner variant where there's certain tiles that are chosen out of the stack, and players are dealt a random pair of those tiles. But I'm not going with any variants, so I just went with what the basic rules are, which is that initial part tile draft. That's it. That's set up. As you can see, like I said, it takes up a lot of space. And if you had more players, because as players build out their park, they're going to be putting tiles out that can end up taking up a lot of space. I may even have to shift my second player down, but as you can see, there was no way I would have room for a 3rd player on this table. So that's why I'm playing with 2 players. But that's set up, and now we'll get on with how to play. Alright, how do you play? Well, the game is played over 5 rounds, and each round is made up of several phases. So let's talk about the first phase, which is the hire workers phase. Alright, in the hire workers phase, first thing you'll do is reveal a number of these worker database cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So I'm playing a 2-player game, so I will reveal 3. Then in turn order, each player will choose one of the cards and take the workers that are displayed on that card. So we're going this round, blue is first and red is second. So we don't really know what we need this time, so we'll just say blue decides he's going to take this card. So he gets a purple worker from the supply, gets 2 green workers. Well, let me just get all these and I'll come back. Alright, so he chose this card, so he got a purple, 2 green, a blue, and 4 white. And the colors are supposed to represent: white is seasonal worker, yellow is security, blue is scientist, green is administration, and purple is park ranger. Anyway, then the card he chose will go into a discard pile. Then the next player in turn order, which is the only other player I have, is player 2. Then he chooses one of the remaining cards. So we'll say he chooses this one. and he'll collect those workers. So he got 2 park rangers, a scientist, an administrator, a security, and 4 seasonal workers. Then that card gets discarded, and then the remaining card that was not chosen gets discarded. If ever this stack becomes empty, you just shuffle the discard piles and create a new draw stack. Okay, that's the hire workers phase. The next phase is the public actions phase. Alright, the first thing you'll do in the public actions phase is draw a number of DNA dice out of the bag equal to the number of players plus 2. You can also see that on the board. It'll show these are for 2 players, so you would have 4. For 3 players, you would have 5. And for 4 players, you'd have 6. So I'm drawing out 4 from the bag. There's still some in there. Then you roll those and place them on these slots of the gathered DNA board. Then in turn order, the players will take turns taking public actions until all players, once you pass, you can take actions until you pass. Once all players have passed, then you go to the next phase. But let's talk about what the possible public actions are. Alright, the first public action you can do is the gathered DNA. So if you're going to take that action, you can spend from 1 to 3 workers of any color, and you can kind of see that there. And then you choose one of these dice, and depending on the number of workers that you spent, you get that DNA times the number of workers. So if this guy decided he was going to spend 3 white workers to take this yellow dice, then he would get 3 yellow basic DNA. So he would move his marker up 3. If he had only spent 1 worker, then he would get 1. Now some of these have like doubles, so if you spent 3 to get this one, then you get 3 times 2, so he would get 6 red DNA, basic DNA. So it's you get whatever symbol is on there times the number of workers you spend, and you can spend from 1 to 3. Let's put this back how it was. And if you spend a blue worker, a scientist, to take this action, you get 1 additional basic DNA or advanced DNA. So, for example, if you took this dice and you used 2 blue workers for this action, you would get 2 red basic DNA. Plus, because you used 2 blue workers, you would get an additional choice of 2 other DNA, a basic or advanced. Whichever one you choose, whichever dice you choose after you've gotten the DNA, gathered the DNA that you choose from that dice, then that dice goes back in the bag, so there's less available for the other players or for you when it comes back to your turn as you're taking turns taking public action. So whenever somebody chooses one, that dice goes back in the bag. Alright, another public action you can do is to build a dinosaur paddock. So as you can see, you can use 2 workers of any color or 1 green administrative worker, plus pay the cost shown on the tile. So if you wanted to take this irritator tile, you'd have to pay 3 coins plus 2 workers of any color or just 1 administrator. And then you would take that tile and put it in your park. Now it can go adjacent to any tile, but it cannot go adjacent to another dinosaur paddock. So you couldn't put this tile anywhere here because it would be adjacent to another dinosaur paddock. You could put it down here, or you could put it up here. Your park can extend above and below. Mine can't extend below because I'm at out of table space there, but it can extend above. It doesn't have to stay within line of this part tile. But again, it couldn't go adjacent to any other dinosaur paddock. So if he bought this one, he would either have to put it down here. I could probably scoot this up a little bit, so, or he could put it up here. But as I said, it costs the number of coins. You'd have to pay the number of coins shown on the tile, and then either 2 workers of any color or 1 green administrative worker. All right, we'll move over to this board. Another public action you can take is to build an attraction. Attractions don't cost any worker, they just cost a number of coins shown on the tile. So if you took this security tile, it cost 8. If you took a roller coaster, it cost 2. Restaurant 2, and a merchandise shop 2. So you would pay the coins and then take the tile and again place it in your park. The only restriction on attractions, they can go again adjacent to any tile in your park, but you can't have more than one of the same attraction. So you can't have 2 roller coasters or 2 restaurant or 2 merchandise or 2 security. You can only ever have 1 of each attraction type in your park. The only other rule for placing tiles in your park that I think I haven't mentioned is you can't have 2 tiles with the same name in your park. So, alright, so let's go on to the next public action. We'll shift over to this board, and the final public action you can take is to buy a special building. As you can see, that does cost 1 worker of any color, so you'd have to pay one of the workers that you got at the beginning in the worker database or hire workers phase, and choose one of the buildings. And then you also, besides spending a worker of any color, you have to spend the amount of coins shown, and then you get that tile. And again, you can place it as long as it's adjacent to any other tile in your park. And if it does have the lightning bolt and victory point icon up there at the top of the tile, you would immediately, when you place that in the park, you would immediately score that number of victory points. Now, one thing I didn't mention for both the dinosaur or the dino paddocks and the special buildings, after you buy one, like if you bought this one, spent the worker and paid the cash, and that was your public action, you put it in your park, then you immediately shift the tiles along the arrows. So this one would shift down here, this one would shift over here, and then that would go there. So you would refill it, and you do the same thing over here with the dino paddock. If you bought this one, then you'd shift them and refill. So there's always 3 dino paddock tiles and 4 special buildings to be chosen for the other players. Well, there could be an exception to that for the special buildings, but we'll talk about that later. So that's all the public actions. So again, players will take turns in turn order, taking public actions until they decide they don't want to take another one, and then they'll say they pass, and then the other players will remain taking public actions in turn order until everybody passes. Once everybody passes, then you go on to the next phase, which is the private actions phase. All right, the private actions phase the rules say they can be done simultaneously by all players since they only affect them. But I don't know. I usually never like to do that because you don't know if other people are playing how they should be. But anyway, the rules say you can do this simultaneously when other players are doing their private actions. You can be doing yours. So first private action you can do is DNA refinement. So if you take this action, you take one of your workers. There's 3 available slots, so you can take this action up to 3 times. And you can do these private actions in any order you want. You could do one here, then one here, then one back up here, then one here. But again, you could only take one up to 3 times and an N, depending on the number of workers you have and want to spend. But you can use any, for the DNA refinement, you can use any color. If you use a blue scientist, you get 1 extra basic DNA. But basically, you can either combine basic DNA to get an advanced DNA, or split an advanced DNA to get the corresponding basic DNA. So if he spent a worker here, he could spend 1 red basic DNA and 1 basic blue DNA to get 1 purple advanced. So he could, spend a red and a blue, and then he would get to go up 1 on the purple advanced. And again, if you spend a blue scientist to take that action, you could do that, but then you also get to get 1 basic DNA of your choice. So if you could do that one, or you could spend a yellow and a red to get an orange advanced DNA, or you could spend a yellow and a blue to get a green or turquoise color advanced DNA, or you could spend to lose 1 purple advanced DNA and get a blue and a red basic DNA. So you can combine or split. And again, you could take that action, then you could take it again, and you could take it again, up to 3 times as long as you have the workers. And again, if you do it with spend one of your actions is with a scientist, you can get an additional basic DNA of your choice. All right, the next action you can do is VC funding. So you can spend a worker of any color to take that action. The first time you take it, you'd get 3 coins. If you took it again, you'd get 2 coins, and if you took it again, you'd get 1. If you take it with an administrator, a green worker, you get 1 additional coin. So if you spent this worker to do this VC funding, you would get 4 coins instead of just 3. All right, the next private action is security. Again, you can spend a worker of any color up to 3 times here. Each worker you place there, you can move up on the security track by 1, and then you have to pay the corresponding cost in coins. So you can see the first couple just cost you 1 coin, but as you get up further, then these 3 are going to cost you 2 coins. And when you get up here, 3 coins, etc., and 4. If you take this action with a yellow security worker, then it costs you 1 less coin. So if you took this one and you were down here and you moved up 1, it would actually cost you nothing, because it's cost you 1 less coin if you take it with a yellow security. So again, you can take this action up to 3 times. Anytime you take it with a yellow security worker, it costs you 1 less coin. All right, next private action possible is the Jeepler garage. And that works similar to the security. Again, you can use any color worker to take that action. When you take that action, you get to move up on the Jeepler track and spend the coin cost for that area that you're in. If you use a purple park ranger figure to take this action, it costs 1 less coin. If you get up, when you advance into this section, you get to take this route token and put it with the others that you already have. And you unlock another bonus Jeepler slot, so you get to choose one of your Jeepler tokens. Like this one lets you get an advanced DNA. You slot it, and then you get to immediately get that advanced DNA. So as you see, you get further up, you get to use more bonus tokens, and when you get here, you get another route token. We haven't talked about what these route tokens are for yet, but we will. So the further up, you get more route tokens, you get more bonus tokens, and finally, if you get up here, you get immediately get 7 victory points. And the final private action you can take is to make dinosaurs. So again, you can spend a worker of any color to take that action. Just put worker on the slot. So if you take that action, you can make a dinosaur in any dinosaur paddock. Of course, you have to have a dinosaur paddock with an empty slot. So this one has 4 empty slots. So to make the dinosaur, you have to spend, to make your first one, you have to spend, at least with this Parasaurolophus, however you say it, you need to be able to spend a blue basic DNA, an orange advanced DNA, and that's it. So if he was going to take this action and he was going to build his first dinosaur, so he would spend a blue basic DNA, and he has one, so he could spend one orange advanced DNA, and then he would take herbivore dinosaur, which is the green ones. Looks kind of like a triceratops, and put it on that slot. Then he would immediately gain 1 threat and 2 victory points. So put that dinosaur on that slot. That little circle means that's the number of threat you gain. So he would gain 1 threat and 2 victory points. So he would advance 2 victory points. And then the next time you're going to make it, if he decided to take that action again with another worker, make another dinosaur. If he was going to make it on this dinosaur paddock. Now, if you have multiple dinosaur paddocks, every time you take the make dinosaur action, you can make a dinosaur on a different paddock. But if he was going to make his second dinosaur in this paddock, he would have to spend 1 blue basic DNA, 1 orange advanced DNA, and now it would cost him another yellow, or an additional yellow basic DNA. Then he would place another dinosaur here, advance his threat by 1, and get 2 victory points. So you can see how that works. So once everyone says they're done with their private actions, again, you can be doing that all simultaneously since that only affects your park. Once everyone says they're done with their private actions, then you go to the Jeepler tour. Again, the rules say the Jeepler tour phase can be done simultaneous, all players doing this at the same time. Again, personally, I don't like doing that. I like to see what the other players are doing and make sure they're doing things right. I guess if you're playing with players that you trust to do the right thing and everybody knows the game and knows what they're doing, then that works out fine. But when you've just taught the game to players, it really doesn't work out to let everyone do things simultaneously, because they may not be doing things exactly the way they should be. So I like to do it, where one player does all theirs, then another, so you can keep an eye on what everybody's doing. But again, the rules state simultaneous. So in the Jeepler tour phase, you can move your Jeepler around your park a number of tiles up to the number of route tokens that you have. So at the beginning, you start with 2, and again, if you've moved up in your private actions, if you moved up on the Jeepler garage and got some more of these, you might be able to move more than 2 tiles. But you'll move around the tiles and activate those tiles. So let's kind of talk about how that works. So when you move your Jeepler, you can move to any adjacent tile. So, if you move to this one, then you place one of your route tokens on the tile you just exited. And during this Jeepler tour, you can never return back to a tile that already has one of your route tokens on it. But when you move to a tile, then you have the choice to activate that tile if possible or not. So if you were going to activate this tile, it would cost you 1 green. You'd have to have a green worker still that you haven't used. And for this one, you would draw 5 DNA dice, roll them. then choose, one of the symbols that's displayed and get 1 point for each DNA on that, each DNA symbol on that die. So you would be hoping you roll one that has maybe 2 or 3 on it. But anyway, then you'd get 1 coin per DNA symbol on the dice you chose. Then you would also, you see down here at the bottom, you would get 3 excitement. So when you gain excitement, you move your excitement marker up. So you got 3. So you move your excitement marker up 3. Now, of course, as I said, you would have to do this one, you'd have to spend a green, where did I just draw? A green administrator there. If you don't have a green administrator, you couldn't take the action on this tile. But after you've taken the action on this tile, you then have to put a boredom token on it. So since that's the first time you've activated that tile, you put a number 1 boredom token on it. Then in a future round, when you come there, if you activate that tile, instead of getting 3 excitement, you get 3 minus 1, so you only get 2 excitement. And then since you activate it a second time, you have to put a number 2 boredom on there. So then if you come there in a future round, the next time you come there, you'd get 3 minus 2. You'd only get 1 excitement. You only move up 1 on the excitement track. And finally, you end up getting none. And if you come there too many times, you get 4 or 5. You actually have to start paying excitement before you can activate the action on that tile. But after you've activated or not activated that tile, even if you don't activate it, when you go to move off of it, you still have to put a route token there. So say I put one there, then I come to this tile. A dinosaur paddock tile, when you activate it, you would get, if you had dinosaurs here, if you had 1 dinosaur here, you'd get 2 excitement. If you had 2 dinosaurs here, you would get another 2 excitement. If you had a 3rd dinosaur here, you can see you'd get another 2 excitement. But again, you have a boredom marker, so the first time you get there, there's no boredom, so you would just get the amount of excitement depending on the number of dinosaurs. But then you'd have to place a 1 boredom there. So then the next time you'd get the amount of excitement depending on the number of dinosaurs minus 1. And then because you visited there again, you have to up the boredom to 2. So again, the boredom goes up every time you go there. So eventually you're getting less and less excitement. But also, when you visit a dinosaur paddock, if there's dinosaurs there, again, you don't get any excitement if there's no dinosaur there. But if there are dinosaurs there, you have to roll the danger dice depicted there. So in this case, you'd roll a green. And it doesn't matter how many dinosaurs are in there, you only roll the 1 dice depicted. So in this case, you roll a green, nothing. If you did get a death marker, then you have to take a death token. So if I had rolled this, I'd have to take one of the death tokens and put it in my play area. But again, in this case, because there's no dinosaurs there, I could travel there, but activating it wouldn't get me anything. But once you've used all your route tokens, and again, at the beginning of the game you only start with 2, then you've done all you can do on your Jeepler tour. Even if I had another one, I would be done, because you can't go back to a tile that already has your route token on it, so I would have no place else to go anyway. But you can see as your park grows bigger, as the rounds go on, you'll want to have more route tokens so you can travel further around and activate tiles in your park. And you can also see that you don't want to spend all your workers that you've gotten taking your public actions and your private actions, because you still may require workers to activate tiles when you're taking your Jeepler tour. So you got to keep all that in mind. What workers do I want to have because some, like this one, require a specific color worker. So you got to keep in mind what workers am I going to need to have when I do my Jeepler tour, which ones do I need to have when I do my private actions, and so forth. And we'll just look at some other the tiles the red player has. If he went here on his Jeepler tour with a and played a green worker, an administrative worker on there, he could spend coins for victory points at this resort. So if he spent 2 coins, he'd get 1 victory point. 4 coins, he'd get 2 victory points. And 6 coins, he would get 3 victory points. And again, this one has a boredom, so first time you would get an excitement, but then you'd have to put a boredom token on there, so the next time you visited it, it would be a net 1-1, so you wouldn't get any excitement, but you wouldn't owe an excitement. But if you came here the next time and this had a 2 boredom on it, before you could activate this tile, you would actually have to pay. You'd have to be able to go back 1 on the excitement level before you could activate it. If you can't pay the excitement that you owe because of boredom, then you can't activate the tile. And his T-Rex dinosaur paddock. You can see when you're taking private actions to make a dinosaur, when you make a T-Rex, you actually go up 3 on the threat level for each one you make. But you get a good amount of victory points for doing that. And then when you visit, if you have dinosaurs, T-Rexes there, when you visit on the Jeepler tour, you get 2 excitement if you have 1 dinosaur, 4 excitement if you have 2, and actually you get 3 extra 3 excitement, so for a total of 7 if you have 3. But again, each time you visit, you got to put a boredom token increasing your boredom, so then you get less excitement each time. And just to look at some of these, if you have a security tile in there, if you play a yellow worker, you can increase your security by 2. If you have a roller coaster, you can play any color worker, and you get 1 excitement for each adjacent tile. Again, then you also get 1 excitement for the first time you visit there. Then you start adding boredom, and then you have to start subtracting excitement from, you'd have to be able to pay excitement before you could activate that. And so all these tiles have different things you can get. Triceratop ring toss. And again, like for one like this, you'd have to spend a worker of any color. You have to be able to, if there's boredom on here and you owe the excitement, you can't say, well, I'm going to get this excitement and then I'll just subtract, what I owe from that. You have to be able to pay the excitement if you owe it because of boredom before you can activate it and gain the excitement you would get for activating this. But again, the first time you visit there, you would get an excitement. Second time, you'd have a 1 boredom on there, so you would neither gain nor lose anything. But the third time, you would actually, because you'd have a 2 on there, you would actually owe an excitement before you could activate it. Some tiles may have slot where you can activate with more than 1 worker. So, the first time you activate this with a yellow security worker, there's no additional cost other than, the worker, and if you owe excitement because of too much boredom. But the second worker you place here, you can see it's going to cost you 2 excitement to be able to place a second yellow worker there. So if you don't have the excitement to pay for that second worker, then you couldn't take the action a second time. But for this one, raptor pin, for each yellow worker placed there, choose a unique, that symbol means adjacent tile, and you'd get 1 victory point for each small carnivore dinosaur there. So this, you'd want to put this next to dinosaur paddocks with a small carnivore symbol like that, because you'd get points for each dinosaur there. So you've got herbivore, which is the green dinos. You've got the large carnivore, which is the red dinos. And then that symbol I showed you a minute ago, this symbol is the small carnivore, which is the purple dinos. So finally, after all players have completed their Jeepler tour, you go to the final phase, which is the income and cleanup phase. So in that phase, everybody moves their Jeepler back to their welcome center, picks up their route markers and puts them back in their play area. You then gain the benefits of all Jeepler tokens that you have next to your Jeepler track. So in this case, I just have this one. I would get 2 basic DNA. So again, you get a benefit when you place one of these tokens, when you move up your on the Jeepler track there, and when you move to a new section, you get to place a token. You get the benefit there, and every round in the income and cleanup phase, you get the benefit of all the tokens you have slotted. Next, you get income for wherever you are on the excitement track. So, from moving around your Jeepler around, you gained excitement. You moved up on the excitement track. So if you were here, the blue player would get 4 coins and then move back to the 0 excitement level. This player would get 5 coins and move his marker back to 0 excitement level, so he's ready for the next round. Next, you return any workers that you spent for your private actions and on your Jeepler tour. They just go back into the general supply. Any workers that you had collected and not spent for anything, you get to keep those for the next round. Next, you evaluate your threat and security track. For every point you are above on your threat track, you are above what your security track is. You have to get a death token. So in this case, I'm at 1 threat but 0 security, so I would have to collect 1 death token. If I was here or here, then I wouldn't get any death tokens. But because my threat level is 1 higher than my security, I would have to collect 1 death token, which is one of these, and then that just goes in your play area. Alright, next you discard any remaining DNA dice that weren't chosen during the public action phase. You return those to the bag. Next, you discard 2 dinosaur paddock tiles off the end of the track into the discard pile. And then you'd slide this one to the end and fill back up like so. Next, you in a 3 or 4 player game, you discard 2 tiles off the special buildings and slide the rest down and then fill back up. But in a 2 player game, you actually discard 3 tiles, put them in the discard, and then slide down and fill the other 3 back up. If the dinosaur paddock stack is ever empty, you can shuffle the discards and form a new stack. If the special buildings tile is ever empty, you do not shuffle the discards. That'll just end up, you don't have any more tiles to add to the special buildings board. Then you reorder the turn order. The player with the least victory points ends up going first, and then the second least would go second, and so forth. In a 2-player game, it's just the person with the least and then the next player. But you go from least victory points goes first, second least goes second, and so forth. So you reorder, and then you'd move the first player marker to whoever is first player for the next round. And then you advance the round marker. Now, this green 0 is just a reminder to make sure your excitement level is set back to 0. However, when you advanced from the third round to the fourth round, you have that reminder, but you also have this icon, which means you've got to move your welcome center and turn it into a park entrance. So when you move to the fourth round, everybody has to pick up their welcome center, flip it over to the park entrance, and they have to then move that tile to a tile that's at least 3 spaces away from where it was. So, 1, 2, it could be placed here, 3. It has to be placed at least 3 spaces away. And then you will place your Jeepler on that tile, and from now on, when you start your Jeepler tour, that is where you will start from. So that's it. Then you would start a new round with the worker database, hire workers phase, and you keep going until after you've completed your 5th round and you move to the end. Then there's no other rounds. You go to the scoring phase. So you'll add wherever you're at on the victory points, you'll add to that. You get 1 victory point for every 5 coins that you still have. Then you'll see who has the least death markers. So in this example, my blue player has 3 death markers. My red player has 7. So whoever has the least discards all his death markers. Then all other players discard that number of death markers also. So the least amount was 3. He discarded all 3 of his. So every other player then gets to discard 3. So he could discard this 5 and get a 2 back. So he's discarded 3. So that leaves him a total of 4. Then players will look at this chart, and if you have 4 death tokens, you lose 3 victory points, so you would go back 3 points on the victory track. So again, the more death tokens you have, the more victory points you lose. If you have over 10, you lose an additional 3 victory points for every one you have over. So if you have 10, you have 15, but if you have 11, then you'd lose an additional 3, so 18. And then after that, whoever has the most victory points wins the game. If there is a tie in victory points, then the player with the most leftover DNA is the winner. And if there's still a tie after that, then the tied players who is last in turn order wins the game. And one other thing we didn't talk about is the objective cards. You can score victory points for those. In any phase where you meet the objective, for instance, this one is to have 7 small carnivores. So if you have dinosaur paddocks where you build small carnivores on it, if you ever build your 7th small carnivore, then you could put one of your objective tokens on there. The first player to meet that objective will get 7 victory points, and as soon as you meet it and put your meet that objective, then you immediately score the victory points. The second person who scored this objective would get 4, and the third person would get 2. This one is to have 1 of each of these attractions, a merchandise shop. So first person to score that would put one of their objective tokens. So you can score each objective once, but the earlier you score it, the more points you have. And this one is to have 10 basic or advanced DNA of one type in your storage. And again, first person to do that would put their objective token on it. So those objectives are another way to score victory points. So that pretty much covers the rules. Why don't we do a few example turns? Alright, so let's do a few example turns. We'll go ahead and start after the setup and tile draft that we already had set up. So we'll start with the hire workers phase, where again we deal out a number of these worker database cards equal to the number of players plus 1, and then the first player which is the blue player. Actually, so let me reset that. Chooses a card. So if he knows if he's going to do this Jeepler tour, he needs a green worker. Neither of these cards have that, so he's going to choose this one. So let me get those workers. Alright, so he got 2 administrators, a scientist, 2 security, and 4 seasonal workers. That's what's on the card. So that gets discarded. So now player 2 chooses one of these cards. I don't think at this point he really cares what he's going to get, so he'll take this one. And let me get those. Alright, so he got 2 park rangers, 2 scientists, a security, and 4 seasonal workers. So now this card and the card that was not chosen get discarded into the discard pile. And now we go to the public action phases, starting with first player, which is blue. Well, the first thing we got to do in the public actions is draw a number of DNA dice equal to the number of players plus 2, so that's 4. We roll them and put them on the board here. That was a pretty good roll, I think. And the bag with the remaining dice just goes back. Alright. Alright, so it's blues. Since blue's first, he takes the first public action. So he's going to use a seasonal worker, so that just gets discarded back to the things, and he's going to take 1 DNA die. He's doing the gather DNA public action. Now remember, he could use 1 to 3 workers of any color, and then he gets the number of workers you use times the number on the die. So he's going to grab this one. So 1 worker times these 3, he's going to get 3 yellow basic DNA. So he goes up 1, 2, 3, and then this goes back into the bag. Okay. And the red player's turn. I think for his one of his public actions, he wants to get a security tile. That's pretty expensive, but because he's going to be making Tyrannosauruses that are going to increase his threat a lot, he knows he's going to need security. So remember, these attractions don't cost any workers, but that one does cost 8 money. So that's going to take most of his money. So alright, he gets that security tile, puts it in his park. I'll have him put it right here. Alright, we're back to the blue player. See if he wants to do any more public actions. He does. He's going to buy one of these special buildings. I think he may get this incubator. So, of course, he has to spend a worker, so he'll spend one of his seasonal workers. Put that in the thing, and then it costs him 4 money. So he'll put his 5 and get a 1 back. And he'll take this incubator. And we'll just say he's going to put it up here. And he scores 1 victory point for that. So he's already got 2 victory points. He's got 1 for when he took this casino in the tile draft. And now he got another one for this incubator. And this one, when he plays it, it lets him use a scientist worker to make up to 2 dinosaurs, and each one costs 1 less basic DNA. Alright, back to the red player. He's going to do gather DNA, and he's going to use a blue worker for that, and for a scientist. And remember, when he does that, he gets an extra either basic DNA or advanced DNA. So he's going to spend his blue worker. He's going to take this one. So since he spent 1 worker, he gets 2 basic DNA of his choice. So I think he's going to take a yellow and a red, and then so that's going to use that die, but then because he used a blue scientist, he gets either a basic or advanced DNA of his choice, so he's going to take one advanced DNA and move it up there. Now this dice goes back in the bag. Oh, and I forgot earlier when Blue bought that tile there, we should have refilled it. So I've done that now. I should have done it right after he bought it. So it's back to Blue's turn. I think that's all the... No, he may do one more gathered DNA. So he's going to do another gathered DNA with only one worker. He'll take this one with 2 yellow, and he'll get 2 more yellow. So he's almost got 10. If he gets 10, he can get this bonus, but this die goes back in the bag. Back to Red's turn. He's going to go ahead and pass. That's all the public actions he's going to do. So we come back to Blue, and he decides he's going to go ahead and pass also. So that's it for the public actions. So now we go to the private actions, which are the actions you can do on your park board here. And again, that can be done simultaneously. Obviously for me, playing one player, I'll be doing it one at a time, so we'll start with Blue. Alright, well I think the first thing Blue wants to do is put a white worker on his Jeepler garage space. You can use a worker of any color or a purple park ranger to pay 1 less, but he's going to use a white worker, so he advances 1 and he's got to pay 1 coin. So take the coin, put it in the thing, see what else he wants to do. I think he's going to use a yellow worker to do security, so he gets to advance on the security track, but because he uses a... oh, sorry, we got to put it here. Because he uses a yellow, he pays 1 less. So he's going to advance on the security track, which would cost 1, but because he used a yellow, costs 1 less, so it doesn't really cost him anything. Alright. He could do he's got another yellow. He could do another security. I think he's going to do that. So he's going to play another security worker to advance 1 more on the security track. Again, that would cost 1, but because he used a yellow, it cost him nothing. And he's going to do 1 more. He's going to do the Make Dinosaur. So he's going to use a green worker, doesn't matter, that's not going to give him a bonus. He can use any color worker to do Make Dinosaur. So the only dinosaur paddock he has that he can make a dinosaur is the Parasaurolophus. And that's going to, he needs 1 blue basic, 1 orange advanced, and then that's it for the first one. So he's got to spend a blue basic and orange advanced, which that's the only one he has. And then there's no other, in these other slots he'll need to spend another something, but there's no other cost for this one. So he creates his first one, so let me get that. It's a herbivore, so he uses a green. So he puts the green herbivore here, and he gets 1 threat and 2 victory points for that. So he goes up 1 on the threat, and he goes up 1, 2 on the victory points. Now he's only got 2 workers left, and he wants to save those for the Jeepler tour, so I think he's done. Alright, so let's come back over here to Red and see what he would be doing on the private actions phase. I don't know why Alexa just said something, but anyway. Let's go on. Alright, he's going to do a Make Dinosaurs. Remember, he can use a meeple of any color, so he's using that white. For his, he's only got 1 dinosaur paddock and Tyrannosaur, so he's got to use a red, yellow, whatever color, turquoise and purple. So we come over here and we go down 1 on the red, 1 on the yellow, 1 on the turquoise, and 1 on the purple. So that's all his color. There's no additional cost for his first Tyrannosaurus. So we got to get 1 of those. Alright, we put that on here, and as you can see, he's going to get 3 threat and 6 victory points. So we put that Tyrannosaur on here, and that's going to give him 3 threat. 1, 2, 3, and 6 victory points. So he's already passed blue. Alright, for another special action, I think he's going to use a purple. And he's going to use that on the Jeepler garage. Remember, if he uses a purple, he pays 1 less. Otherwise, he could use any color. So he'll go up 1 on the Jeepler garage. That would cost 1, but since he used the purple, which is 1 less, that cost him nothing. Since he's low on money, I think he's going to use one of his seasonal workers to take the VC funding. Again, if he had a green worker, which he doesn't, but if he did, he would get 1 additional coin, but he can use worker of any color. The first one he uses gets him 3 coins in VC funding, so let's get 1, 2, 3. Put that in his little bit of money he's got. And just to show the DNA refinement, he's going to spend one of his seasonal workers here to take the DNA refinement. He's going to spend a yellow and a blue to get a green or turquoise advance there. So spend 1 yellow, 1 blue, and that gives him up 1 on the green or turquoise. Again, he could take that action again with additional workers. I think that is all he's going to do. So he's done with his private action. So everybody's done with their private actions. So now we go to the next phase, which is the Jeepler tour. And again, this is simultaneous, but I'll be doing it individually. So we'll start with Blue. He's at the Welcome Center with his Jeepler. First thing he's going to do is he's going to go visit his his dino paddock. He's got to put one of his route tokens on the tile he just left. So he's visiting his dino paddock, so the visitors, I guess, that he's taken are excited to see the one Parasaurolophus that he's got in there. So for 1 dinosaur, he gets 2 excitement. There's no current boredom, so he gets the 2 excitement, so he goes up 2 on the excitement track. But now we do have to put a boredom on there. So we put a 1 boredom on there, so the next time he comes there, he'll get 1 less excitement. Now we also have to roll the green danger dice. Make sure some visitor didn't get too close. Oh, 1 did, so we had 1 death. So that's not good. So we take a death token and put it in our area. And that's it. So that's it for there. So now he's going to move on. He could either go here or here. He can't go back to the Welcome Center. So he's going to move to the casino. We have to put our second and only other route token on there. So this is going to be his last stop. We don't have any more route tokens we can use to travel. To activate this, he needs a green worker, an administrator, so he's got that. Now he gets to roll 5 DNA die. I'm just getting a little tray out to roll these in. Okay, so he gets to roll 5 DNA dice, and he gets to choose one of those dice, and he gets 1 coin for each DNA symbol on that. So obviously he'll take the one with 3 on it, so he's going to get 3 coins. So there's his 3 coins, goes into his stack of money. Alright, I put the DNA dice back in the bag, and anyway, that's going to be it for his Jeepler tour, because he's only got 2 route tokens. That's as far as he can go. Now, he does get 3 excitement for going there. So, 1, 2, 3. And now we got to put a boredom there, so the next time he'll only get 2 excitement. So we put a 1 boredom token there. So again, next time he'll only get 2 excitement. Now, in the future, when he actually owes, like if there's a 4 boredom on there, before he could take this action, he would actually have to be able to pay 1 excitement before he could actually take the action. Alright, so that is going to be it for his Jeepler tour. We'll go to the red player's Jeepler tour. Alright, well, first thing red player is going to do is move to the security center, and he's going to put one of his route tokens down. He can spend a yellow worker. Now he gets 0 excitement, and he's going to have to put 1 boredom. So the next time he'll actually have to pay an excitement the next time he comes here. But right now it's 0, so he doesn't have to pay nor gain. But he has to use a yellow worker, which he has. He's going to spend that, and he gets to go up 2 on the security track. 1, 2. Dang, he's still going to be 1 less on the threat when we get to the next phase. He probably should have used, well, he didn't have another yellow worker. Well, he could have used a worker of any color. Anyway, he probably should have used one of these other workers. He still has to go up 1 more on the security track back in the private actions, but he didn't. So anyway, now we got to put a boredom on here. So we put a number 1 boredom. So again, next time he comes here, before he can even take this action, he's going to have to be able to pay 1 excitement. Which at this point now, he wouldn't even be able to pay 1 excitement because he doesn't have any. But again, he doesn't have to. This time it was a 0. So now he's going to move up to his Tyrannosaurus Rex paddock. We have to take his second and only other route token, so this is going to be his last stop. He has 1 dinosaur, so he gets 2 excitement. There's no boredom yet, so he gets both of them. So 2 excitement. And we have to roll the danger die, the red one. Make sure that Tyrannosaur doesn't eat anybody. And they didn't, so he is safe. And now we have to put a boredom there. Alright, we put the 1 boredom there. So again, if he came here again on his next round, and he still only just had the 1 dinosaur here, he would only get 1 excitement because he would have to pay the 1, and then boredom would increase again. So if he came again in the next round and he hadn't put any more dinosaurs here, he would get no excitement, so there would be no point coming here. But if he builds another dinosaur here in the future, you know, he'd get 2 plus 2, 4. If he builds another one, he'd get an additional 3. So, but then minus whatever boredom is. So you understand how that works. But that's going to be the end of the Jeepler tour. So that's going to be the end of the Jeepler tour phase. He still had 3 workers left over. He'll get to keep those for next round. The blue player just had 1 worker left over. Alright, now we come to the final phase, income and cleanup. Everybody returns their Jeepler to the welcome center, picks up their route tokens, and just puts them back in their play area. So we'll do that for both players. Then everybody gets bonuses from the Jeepler bonus tokens they have. They still both just have 1 because they didn't make it up into the next section. So he gets 2 basic DNA of his choice. He's going to go 1, 2 on the yellow, and that's going to allow him to put 1 of his markers on this objective, and he's going to get 5 victory points because he's the first one to get it. There's no way this guy's going to get that this phase, so we don't even need to wait for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And even if he did, because this guy's higher, blue's higher in player order, he would get it. Anyway, he got his Jeepler bonus. He gets 1 advanced DNA for his Jeepler bonus. We'll just say he's going to go up 1 on the purple track. Alright, next you get a number of coins shown on your excitement level. So blue's going to get 5 money. Then he resets his excitement level to 0. Red is going to get 2 money, and he resets his excitement level to 0. Okay. Alright, any workers on your park board or in your park get returned to the supply. So we return these and these, and same for this guy. This yellow guy. And I think that's all of them. Now you compare your threat to your security. If you have more threat than you have security, you get death tokens um, in the difference. So he's got more security, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Like we talked about earlier, this guy actually has one more threat than he has security, so he's got to get one additional or one death token and put that in his play area. All right. We return all leftover DNA dice to the bag. There's only one left over. Stick that in the bag. All right, then we discard the two end tiles from the dinosaur paddock. They go on the discard. This one slides up to the end of the track, and then we refill. And same thing over here. Normally in a 3 or 4 player game you do 2, in a 2 player game you do 3 of these, so we'll discard the 3 of these special buildings, slide this one down, and then refill. Alright. And again, as we talked about in the rules overview, if the dinosaur paddock tiles ever become empty, you can shuffle the discard pile and form a new stack. If the special building pile ever becomes empty, you don't shuffle the discard pile. It just whatever's left can be used, and once it's empty, that's it. Alright, next you adjust turn order based on the victory points, with the lowest victory points going first. So this would actually reverse the turn order for the next round. So red will be first, so he'll get the first player marker. And then we'd bounce the round marker to the next round. Remember, that's just a reminder to reset your excitement level, which we've already done. And that's it. That's the end of one round. We would now start a second round by dealing out the worker database and hiring workers, and continue playing. You play 5 rounds, and then, as we talked about, how to do the game in scoring, and you have your winner. So that's it. I think just that one round of example turns gives you a good idea how to play. All these tiles, have different functions, and they're described in the rule. If you don't exactly understand what it's saying to do, in the back of the rules there is a section here that describes the part tiles and what they mean and what you do with them. And there's a iconography reference on the back here also. So if you're not exactly sure what one of those objective cards is saying, you can kind of look at these icons and figure it out. So that's it. Overall, I'm not sure on this one. Playing it solo, it didn't grab me, but again, like most of these games that I set up and play solo as multiplayer, it's not really meant to be played that way. It's meant to be played with other people, and I'm sure this game is probably more fun that way. But I don't like these little tiny tokens for the boredom, and keeping track of 5 different bags of those. Maybe they could have made the tokens a little bigger and made them double-sided, so you have a 1, 2, 3, 4. That might have been a little better. I don't know. I just really don't like those tiny little tokens, and I just think the player area, as you can see, that's after 1 round. Our park is already this big, so after get rid of 5 rounds, your park, if you've bought a lot of tiles, can take up a lot of space. I'm not sure something could be done about that, but it does just seem each player needs a whole lot of space. Maybe this DNA storage board could have been smaller, or instead of having these tracks, you could just have some tokens that show how many of each DNA you have, and that might reduce the footprint. But I don't know. Maybe people are fine with it the way it is. I mean, overall, I had an okay time with it playing solo, but like I said, it just didn't grab me. But of course, I would never make a final judgment on a game until I've played it with other players. So maybe I can get my wife and daughter to play it. It seems like maybe it's a little heavier game than what they would be willing to play, but I'll see if I can't get somebody to play it with me eventually and see if I think better of it. I mean, I certainly don't think it's a bad game, and I could see where if you're playing with other players that understand it, it could be pretty fun. You know, on my first play, you know, I had no idea what tiles I should be getting, and I ended up getting tiles that I'm like, oh, I can't even use this because I don't have dinosaur paddocks that create this kind of dinosaur and that kind of thing. So it's also definitely one that with more plays you understand better the tiles and how they interact with each other, and that probably makes it more fun for you. So, yeah, it's one where after one play, I don't think you can really make a judgment. So, you know, I'm not making a judgment after one play. I'm just saying it didn't grab me after the one solo play, but I certainly think with multiple plays and playing it with somebody, with other people, it could be pretty fun. So we'll see. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.